He thought freedom would feel lighter, that the moment he crossed the border, fear would dissolve, money would feel safe again, and the future would finally open itself. Instead, freedom arrived with a cost no one warned him about. His savings were fragmented. His plans were incomplete. And the financial identity he had built under a dictatorship suddenly felt out of place in a world that demanded visibility, trust, and risk. Standing in a foreign city, with unfamiliar rules and unfamiliar currencies, a quiet question surfaced that unsettled him deeply. What happens to your relationship with money when survival is replaced by choice? In that moment, a realization formed slowly. Freedom doesn't erase fear, it exposes it. Under the dictatorship, money had been about protection. Every decision was cautious, controlled, deliberate. Spending felt dangerous. Visibility felt risky. Discipline wasn't optional. It was instinct. Escaping that system saved his life, but it also stripped away the structure that had shaped his financial behavior. Suddenly, the rules were different. Banks were accessible. Opportunities were everywhere. Consumption was encouraged. And yet, he felt paralyzed. Anxiety followed him into freedom, not because he lacked money, but because he no longer knew how to relate to it. He worked harder than ever, but progress felt slow. Bills arrived in a language he barely understood. Nights were spent calculating, recalculating, wondering if he was falling behind, while others moved effortlessly forward. He compared himself constantly, measuring his struggle against people who had never lived with fear embedded into every financial decision. Emotional exhaustion crept in quietly. He wasn't just rebuilding income, he was rebuilding identity. But what happened next would quietly change how he saw money. One evening, after another long day that yielded little certainty, he recognized something uncomfortable. The habits that once protected him were now limiting him. His instinct to hide, to delay, to over-control was colliding with a system that rewarded clarity, planning, and long-term commitment. Freedom required a different kind of discipline, not secrecy, but responsibility. He didn't realize that moment was already shaping his financial identity. He noticed how often he avoided decisions, waiting for perfect safety that never arrived. He spent money to relieve stress, then punished himself emotionally for doing so. He oscillated between extreme restraint and impulsive relief. What followed challenged everything he believed about security. True safety, he began to understand, wasn't about eliminating risk. It was about learning to manage it consciously. He started rebuilding from the inside, slowly, painfully. He learned the rules of the new system without romanticizing it. He created structure where fear once lived. Budgeting stopped feeling like control and started feeling like orientation. Saving wasn't about hiding anymore. It was about intention. Each small act of financial responsibility strengthened something deeper than confidence. It strengthened trust in himself. If you're still listening at this point, this might be a quiet moment to stay connected. Liking this video or subscribing to the channel isn't about growth or algorithms. It's simply a way to remain present for stories that explore money beyond tactics and into psychology, identity, and long-term thinking. The real turning point didn't come with financial success. It came with emotional regulation. He learned to sit with uncertainty without panicking, to make decisions without needing immediate reassurance, to think in years instead of weeks. Freedom stopped feeling chaotic and started feeling demanding clarity, patience, and ownership. But there was one realization he only understood much later. Escaping oppression doesn't automatically create a wealthy mindset. That has to be built deliberately. The discipline learned in fear had to evolve into discipline chosen consciously. This understanding mirrored principles he later encountered in reflections like how to develop a millionaire mindset, not as a promise of wealth, but as a reminder that mindset must adapt when circumstances change. Over time, his relationship with money softened, not because life became easy, but because his thinking became steadier. He stopped measuring progress emotionally and started measuring it strategically. He accepted that freedom carries responsibility, financial, psychological, and personal. And that responsibility, once embraced, became empowering. Now, a question lingers for anyone listening. What would your financial identity look like if your environment changed tomorrow? Are your habits built for fear, comfort, or long-term freedom? And what is the real cost of avoiding that question?